The rejected bride's royal return. The humiliation. The day everything shattered. Elena Hart stood before the full-length mirror in the bridal suite, her hands trembling as she adjusted the delicate lace veil that cascaded down her back. The white wedding dress hugged her figure perfectly, every detail exactly as she had dreamed for the past 5 years. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. Today, she would finally become Mrs. Marcus Sterling. "You look absolutely beautiful, Elena," her best friend Sophie whispered, wiping tears from her eyes. "Marcus is the luckiest man alive." Elena smiled, though her stomach churned with an unexplained nervousness. She had barely seen Marcus all week. He claimed he was busy with work, preparing for their honeymoon, making sure everything was perfect. She believed him. She always believed him. The chapel was filled with 300 guests, all waiting to witness the union of Marcus Sterling, heir to the Sterling Corporation fortune, and Elena Hart, the humble secretary who had captured his heart. Or so everyone thought. The walk down the aisle. The music began. Elena took a deep breath and started her walk down the aisle, her father's arm linked with hers. Every eye turned to watch her. She saw Marcus standing at the altar in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, his dark hair slicked back, his expression unreadable. But something was wrong. Marcus wasn't smiling. His jaw was clenched, and his eyes kept darting toward the entrance as if he was waiting for someone else. Elena's heart began to pound, but she forced herself to keep walking, her smile frozen in place. She reached the altar. Her father kissed her cheek and placed her hand in Marcus's. His palm was cold and sweaty. "Marcus, are you okay?" Elena whispered. Before he could answer, the chapel doors burst open. A woman stood in the entrance, silhouetted by the afternoon sunlight streaming through the doorway. She was stunning, wearing a designer red dress that hugged her curves, her blonde hair falling in perfect waves around her shoulders. Even from a distance, Elena could see the expensive jewelry glittering at her throat and wrists. "Victoria," Marcus breathed, and Elena felt her world tilt sideways. The cruel truth revealed. Victoria Chase walked down the aisle with the confidence of someone who owned the world. The guests gasped and whispered, but she paid them no attention. Her eyes were fixed on Marcus. "I'm here," Victoria announced, her voice carrying through the chapel. "I'm ready now, Marcus. I'm ready to be with you." Elena's hand slipped from Marcus's grasp as he took a step toward Victoria. "You're serious? You actually mean it this time?" "I do," Victoria purred, stopping a few feet away. "I was foolish to push you away. I know that now. These past months watching you plan this wedding made me realize what I was losing." The chapel erupted in confused murmurs. Elena stood frozen at the altar, her mind refusing to process what was happening. Marcus turned to face Elena, and for the first time in 5 years, she saw his true face. There was no love in his eyes, no regret, no apology. Only cold relief. "I'm sorry, Elena," he said, his voice flat and emotionless. "But I can't marry you. I never wanted to marry you." 5 years of lies. The words hit Elena like physical blows. She stumbled backward, gripping the altar rail to steady herself. What are you saying?" Marcus sighed as if she were being difficult. "Our relationship was never real. I mean, it was convenient, sure. You were sweet and devoted, and you made Victoria jealous, which was the whole point. But now that Victoria and I are finally together, there's no reason to continue this charade." Elena felt as if she were drowning. A charade? 5 years? 5 years were a charade? "Oh, sweetie," Victoria laughed, a cruel, tinkling sound. "Did you really think someone like Marcus would actually love someone like you? You're a secretary. You wear discount store clothes. You drive a 10-year-old car. You were just a placeholder until I was ready to settle down." The guests were openly staring now, some with pity, others with barely concealed amusement. Elena's father stood up from his seat, his face red with anger, but Elena held up a shaking hand to stop him. Why? Elena's voice cracked. Why would you do this to me? Why didn't you just break up with me months ago? Marcus shrugged. Because Victoria wasn't ready yet. And honestly, you were useful. You organized my schedule, picked up my dry cleaning, made sure my life ran smoothly. Why would I give that up before I had to? Sophie rushed forward, wrapping a protective arm around Elena. You're a monster, Marcus Sterling. Both of you are monsters. We're realists, Victoria corrected, examining her perfectly manicured nails. Marcus and I are from the same world. We understand each other. We're equals. Elena, you were never going to fit into our world, and deep down, you knew it. The breaking point. Elena's vision blurred with tears, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of these people who were watching her humiliation like it was entertainment. I gave you everything, Elena whispered, her voice raw. 5 years of my life. I worked extra hours to help pay for your business expenses. I canceled my own dreams to support yours. I loved you with everything I had. And I appreciate that, Marcus said dismissively. But love isn't enough, Elena. It never was. Now, if you'll excuse us, Victoria and I have a lot to discuss. He took Victoria's hand, and together they walked back down the aisle, leaving Elena standing alone at the altar in her wedding dress. The guests watched in shocked silence as the couple who should have been getting married simply left with someone else. Elena's legs finally gave out. She sank to her knees, her expensive wedding dress pooling around her like a wide ocean. Sophie knelt beside her, crying openly. I can't breathe, Elena gasped. Sophie, I can't breathe. Yes, you can, Sophie said fiercely, gripping Elena's shoulders. You're going to breathe, and then you're going to stand up, and we're going to get you out of here. But Elena couldn't move. 5 years. 5 years of her life had been a lie. Every kiss, every I love you, every promise of forever had meant nothing. She had been nothing more than a tool, a convenient placeholder, a way to make another woman jealous. The whispers grew louder around them. Elena could hear the guests discussing her, their voices dripping with pity and gossip. By tomorrow, everyone in the city would know. Elena Hart, the foolish secretary who thought she could marry above her station. Elena Hart, who was left at the altar for someone better. The escape. Sophie and Elena's father helped her to her feet. They guided her through a side door, away from the staring eyes and whispered comments. In the bridal suite, Elena mechanically removed the wedding dress, letting it fall to the floor in a heap of lace and broken dreams. What am I going to do? Elena asked, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes red and swollen. She looked like a stranger. You're going to survive, her father said firmly. And then you're going to thrive. That boy never deserved you, Elena. He never deserved 1 minute of your time. But his words felt hollow. How could she survive this? Everyone she knew had witnessed her humiliation. She worked at Sterling Corporation, for God's sake. How could she ever face those people again? The answer was simple. She couldn't. That night, Elena made a decision. She would leave the city. She would leave everything behind and start over somewhere no one knew her name or her shame. She wrote a simple resignation letter to Sterling Corporation, packed 2 suitcases with her belongings, and bought a one-way train ticket to a city 800 miles away. As the train pulled out of the station just before dawn, Elena watched her old life disappear into the distance. She had no plan, no job, no idea what she would do next. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would never be that weak, naive, trusting girl again. 6 months later, the return. 6 months passed. Elena Hart disappeared so completely that people began to forget about the secretary who was left at the altar. Marcus and Victoria married in a lavish ceremony 2 months after the chapel incident. Life went on. But on a crisp autumn morning, a sleek black car pulled up to the Sterling Corporation headquarters. The driver opened the rear door, and a woman stepped out. She wore a tailored black suit that screamed expensive designer. Her dark hair was styled in an elegant updo. Diamond earrings caught the sunlight. Her heels clicked confidently on the pavement as she walked toward the building's entrance. Several employees did double takes, their eyes widening in recognition and disbelief. Is that Elena Hart? It can't be. She disappeared months ago. But it looks exactly like her. Elena heard the whispers but didn't acknowledge them. She walked through the lobby with her head held high, her expression unreadable. She took the elevator to the executive floor and stepped into the conference room where the Sterling Corporation board was holding their quarterly meeting. Marcus was mid-presentation when the door opened. He turned, annoyed at the interruption, and froze. Elena? She smiled, but it wasn't the sweet, gentle smile he remembered. This smile was sharp and dangerous. Hello, Marcus. Miss me? The new Elena. Victoria, who was sitting beside Marcus, stood up abruptly. What are you doing here? You don't work here anymore. Security. Actually, Elena said calmly, taking a seat at the conference table, I'm here in an official capacity. Allow me to introduce myself properly. My name is Elena Hart, and I'm the new CEO of Hart Industries. The room fell silent. Several board members exchanged confused glances. Hart Industries? Marcus repeated slowly. The Hart Industries? The international conglomerate? The very same, Elena confirmed. Perhaps you've heard of my grandfather, Richard Hart. He founded the company 50 years ago. He's recently decided to step down, and I'm taking over the family business. The shock on Marcus's face was deeply satisfying. Elena had spent 6 months discovering the truth about her family, a truth her parents had hidden from her to give her a normal childhood. When her grandfather found her after the wedding disaster, broken and humiliated, he'd revealed everything. Elena wasn't just a secretary. She was the sole heir to a multi-billion-dollar empire. Impossible, Victoria hissed. You're lying. You're just a secretary. I was a secretary, Elena corrected. Because I wanted to prove I could succeed on my own merit, without my family name. My parents raised me to be humble and hardworking. Unfortunately, I was also naive enough to trust a man who saw me as nothing more than a placeholder. She turned her attention to the board members. Hart Industries has been considering a partnership with Sterling Corporation. However, after reviewing your recent business practices and financial records, I've decided that Sterling Corporation doesn't meet our standards for ethical business partnerships. Marcus's face went pale. Elena, wait. Let's talk about this privately. There's nothing to discuss, Elena said coolly. But I do want to thank you, Marcus. If you hadn't humiliated me at that altar, I might never have realized my true worth. I might have wasted my entire life trying to be enough for someone who never deserved me in the first place. She stood up, gathering her briefcase. Oh, and one more thing. Hart Industries will be acquiring several of Sterling Corporation's key clients over the next few months. Consider it a business decision, not personal revenge. Though I won't lie and say I won't enjoy it. As Elena walked toward the door, she heard Victoria shriek, "You can't do this. Marcus, do something." But Marcus just stood there, watching the woman he'd discarded walk away with power, grace, and a confidence he'd never seen in her before. Elena allowed herself a small smile as the elevator doors closed. This was just the beginning. Part 2, The Transformation, 2,000 words. The Man in Black. Elena's first official day as CEO of Hart Industries started with a 7 a.m. meeting with her executive team. She sat at the head of the conference table in her office building, a modern glass structure that overlooked the city. From her window, she could see Sterling Corporation's headquarters in the distance, smaller and less impressive than she remembered. Miss Hart, her CFO, Margaret Chen, was saying, "We have a situation. Damian Blackwood has requested a meeting with you this afternoon." Elena's hand paused over her coffee cup. Damian Blackwood? The Damian Blackwood? The one and only, Margaret confirmed. Owner of Blackwood Enterprises, the largest technology conglomerate in the country. Also known as Marcus Sterling's biggest rival. A slow smile spread across Elena's face. How interesting. Accept the meeting. 2 p.m. in my office. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of paperwork, phone calls, and strategic planning. Elena was learning that running a multi-billion-dollar company was exhausting but thrilling. Every decision she made had real consequences. Every move she made in the business world sent ripples through the industry. She was good at it. Better than good, actually. Her years of managing Marcus's chaotic schedule had taught her organization and attention to detail. Her grandfather's intensive training over the past 6 months had taught her everything else: negotiation, market analysis, corporate strategy, and most importantly, how to spot a liar. At exactly 2 p.m., her assistant buzzed the intercom. Miss Hart, Mr. Blackwood has arrived. Send him in. Elena stood up, smoothing down her navy blue dress, and waited. The door opened, and Damian Blackwood walked into her office. Meeting Damian. He was tall, probably 6'3", with dark hair that was slightly too long to be considered corporate standard. He wore a black suit that was clearly custom-made, and his eyes were a striking shade of gray that seemed to see right through her carefully constructed armor. Miss Hart, he said, extending his hand. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me on such short notice. His handshake was firm and confident. Elena gestured to the leather chairs by the window. Please, sit. Can I offer you anything? Coffee, tea? I'm fine, thank you. Damian settled into the chair with easy grace. I'll get straight to the point. I heard about your entrance at Sterling Corporation's board meeting last week. Impressive. You heard about that? Elena raised an eyebrow. I make it my business to know what happens in that company, Damian said with a slight smile. Marcus Sterling and I have been competing for years. He's won some battles, I've won others. But recently, I've been hearing rumors about a new player in the game. A woman who was once close to Marcus but now seems determined to take him down. Elena kept her expression neutral. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? Damian leaned forward slightly. I did some research on you, Elena Hart. You worked as a secretary at Sterling Corporation for 5 years. You were engaged to Marcus Sterling. The wedding was called off in a rather public and humiliating fashion. Then you disappeared for 6 months, only to return as the CEO of Hart Industries. You're well informed, Elena said coolly. I'm thorough, Damian corrected. And I'm also very interested in what you're planning next. A dangerous proposal. Elena studied him carefully. Damian Blackwood was known for being ruthless in business but fair. He'd built his empire from nothing, starting with a small tech startup in his college dorm room and growing it into a global powerhouse. Unlike Marcus, who'd inherited everything from his father, Damian had earned every bit of his success. Why are you interested? Elena asked. Because Marcus Sterling has been a thorn in my side for years, Damian said bluntly. He's unethical, dishonest, and he's built his company on his father's reputation rather than his own merit. I've been waiting for an opportunity to take him down properly, and you, Elena Hart, might be exactly what I need. Let me guess, Elena said dryly. You want to use me the way Marcus did? As a tool to achieve your goals? No, Damian said firmly. I want to partner with you. There's a difference. Marcus used you because he thought you were weak and easily manipulated. I want to work with you because I think you're smart, capable, and motivated. Plus, you have something I don't have. What's that? Inside knowledge of Sterling Corporation's weaknesses. You worked there for 5 years. You know how they operate, where their vulnerabilities are, what Marcus's blind spots are. Damian's gray eyes were intense. Together, we could systematically dismantle everything Marcus has built. Legally and ethically, of course. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Part of her wanted to refuse. She didn't want to be anyone's partner, anyone's tool, anyone's anything. She'd spent 6 months learning to stand on her own. But another part of her, the part that still remembered standing at that altar in her wedding dress while Marcus chose someone else, wanted revenge. And Damian Blackwood could help her get it. What exactly are you proposing? Elena asked carefully. Damian pulled out a folder from his briefcase and slid it across the table. Sterling Corporation is bidding on a major government contract next month. It's worth $500 million, and if they get it, it will secure their position as a top-tier company for years to come. Elena opened the folder and scanned the documents inside. Her eyes widened. This is confidential information. How did you get this? I have my sources, Damian said with a slight smile. The point is, Hart Industries is also eligible to bid on this contract. And with your knowledge of Sterling's strategies and my resources, we could put together a proposal that would blow theirs out of the water. Beating them on one contract won't destroy Marcus, Elena pointed out. No, Damian agreed. But it will be the first step. Once we win this contract, Sterling's investors will start questioning Marcus's leadership. His stock prices will drop. His clients will start looking at alternatives. And then we move on to phase 2. Which is? We systematically acquire every client, every contract, every partnership that Sterling Corporation relies on. Within a year, we could reduce Marcus Sterling's empire to rubble. Damian met her eyes. But I need your help to do it. The truth about her past. Elena closed the folder and stood up, walking to the window. Below, the city sprawled out in all directions. From up here, everything looked small and manageable. It was easy to forget that behind every building, every company, every office were real people whose lives could be destroyed by the games powerful people played. Before I agree to anything, Elena said quietly, I need to tell you the full story. About Marcus and me. You don't owe me any explanations, Damian said. Maybe not, but you should know who you're partnering with. Elena turned to face him. I met Marcus when I was 20. I had just graduated college with a business degree, but I needed money immediately because my father was sick. I took the secretary job at Sterling Corporation because it paid well and had good health benefits. She paused, remembering that younger version of herself. So hopeful, so naive. Marcus was charming. He paid attention to me when no one else did. He made me feel special. When he asked me out, I felt like I'd won the lottery. For 5 years, I believed we were building a life together. I worked extra hours to help him succeed. I put my own dreams on hold. I did everything a supportive partner should do. And then came the wedding, Damian said softly. Elena nodded. And then came the wedding. I found out that everything had been a lie. I was just a tool to make Victoria Chase jealous. The humiliation nearly destroyed me. I spent 6 months trying to figure out who I was without Marcus, without the life I'd planned. But you survived, Damian observed. I did more than survive, Elena said, her voice gaining strength. My grandfather found me and revealed the truth about our family. My parents had hidden my inheritance because they wanted me to have a normal childhood. They wanted me to succeed on my own merit. But after they died in a car accident when I was in college, my grandfather respected their wishes and stayed away. Until the wedding disaster. He came to help you, Damian said. He came to save me, Elena corrected. He took me to his home, enrolled me in an intensive business training program, and taught me everything about running Hart Industries. He showed me that I was never weak or worthless. I was just with the wrong person. She walked back to her desk and picked up a photograph that sat in a silver frame. It showed her with her grandfather, both smiling at a Hart Industries ribbon-cutting ceremony. He died 3 weeks ago, Elena said quietly. Heart attack. His last words to me were, show them what a heart can do. So that's what I'm doing. An unexpected understanding. Damien stood up and walked over to her. Up close, Elena could see that his gray eyes held understanding, not pity. My father was a drunk, Damien said quietly. He gambled away everything we had. My mother worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. When I was 16, I started my first business fixing computers in our garage. My father mocked me every day, telling me I'd never amount to anything. He smiled, but it was a bitter smile. When I became successful, he came back into my life, expecting me to support him. Expecting me to forget all the years he'd called me worthless. I refused. Some people think that makes me cold. But I learned a long time ago that you can't let people who hurt you continue to have power over your life. Elena felt something shift in her chest. Damien wasn't offering her pity. He was offering her understanding, recognition from someone who'd also had to build himself up from nothing. So, she said slowly, if we do this partnership, it's equals. I'm not your secretary or your assistant or your tool. Agreed, Damien said immediately. We're partners. 50-50 on all decisions related to Sterling Corporation. And once we've accomplished our goal, we can go our separate ways. No strings attached. Elena thought about it for a long moment. Then she extended her hand. You have a deal, Mr. Blackwood. Damien, he corrected, shaking her hand. If we're going to be partners, you should call me Damien. Then call me Elena. As their hands clasped, Elena felt a small spark of electricity. She told herself it was just the excitement of finally having a solid plan for revenge. It had nothing to do with the way Damien's gray eyes seemed to see straight into her soul. Nothing at all. The gala. 3 weeks later, Elena stood in front of her bedroom mirror, adjusting the straps of her red evening gown. Tonight was the annual business gala, the biggest networking event of the year. Every major CEO, investor, and business leader would be there, including Marcus and Victoria Sterling. Her phone buzzed with a text from Damien, car is outside. Ready? Elena took a deep breath, grabbed her clutch purse, and headed downstairs. When she stepped out of her building, she found Damien waiting beside a sleek black limousine. He wore a perfectly tailored tuxedo that made him look like he'd stepped out of a spy movie. You look stunning, he said simply. Thank you. You clean up nicely yourself. Elena accepted his hand as he helped her into the car. During the drive to the gala, Damien briefed her on their strategy. Sterling Corporation submitted their bid for the government contract yesterday. Our bid goes in tomorrow. Tonight is about making connections, reminding people that Hart Industries is a force to be reckoned with. And reminding Marcus that I'm not going away, Elena added. That too, Damien agreed with a slight smile. The gala was held at the Grand Regency Hotel, a historic building with soaring ceilings and crystal chandeliers. As Elena and Damien entered the ballroom, heads turned. She could feel people staring, whispering behind their champagne glasses. There she is. Is that really Elena Hart? She looks completely different. Who's that with her? Is that Damien Blackwood? Elena kept her head high and her expression serene. Let them stare. Let them gossip. She had nothing to hide anymore. And then she saw them. Marcus and Victoria stood near the bar, dressed in matching silver outfits that screamed trying too hard. Marcus's face went pale when he spotted Elena. Victoria's expression twisted into something ugly. Showtime, Damien murmured, placing his hand on the small of Elena's back as he guided her across the ballroom. They walked straight up to Marcus and Victoria. Elena's smile was sharp and bright. Marcus, Victoria. What a surprise. I didn't know they let mediocre business people into events like this. Victoria's face turned red. How dare you? Elena, Marcus interrupted, his voice strained. Can we talk? Privately? I don't think so, Elena said pleasantly. I'm here with my date. She placed her hand on Damien's arm, feeling his muscles tense slightly under her touch. I don't believe you two have met. Damien Blackwood, this is Marcus Sterling and his wife Victoria. We've met, Damien said coldly. Unfortunately. Marcus's jaw clenched. Elena, please. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. Can't we at least talk about it? What's there to talk about? Elena asked. You used me for 5 years and then humiliated me in front of everyone I knew. You made your choice. Now you have to live with it. I was young and stupid, Marcus said, and for the first time, Elena saw genuine regret in his eyes. Victoria and we're not happy. We're barely speaking to each other. I realize now what I gave up. That's not my problem, Elena said flatly. You wanted Victoria? Congratulations. You got her. Enjoy your miserable marriage. She started to walk away, but Marcus grabbed her arm. Elena, wait. Damien's hand shot out, gripping Marcus's wrist with enough force to make the other man wince. I'd suggest you let go of her. Now. The tension in the air was explosive. Several nearby guests had stopped talking to watch the confrontation. Marcus reluctantly released Elena's arm. This isn't over, Marcus said, his voice low and threatening. You're right, Damien said with a dangerous smile. It's not. In fact, it's just getting started. He and Elena walked away, leaving Marcus and Victoria standing there in humiliated fury. As they reached the other side of the ballroom, Elena realized her hands were shaking. That was intense. You did great, Damien said quietly. He's scared. He should be. For the rest of the evening, Elena and Damien worked the room, making connections and subtly undermining Sterling Corporation's reputation. By the end of the night, Elena had secured 3 new business partnerships and planted seeds of doubt about Marcus's company in the minds of several influential investors. As Damien drove her home, Elena felt exhausted but exhilarated. Thank you, she said as they pulled up to her building. For having my back tonight. We're partners, Damien said simply. That's what partners do. But as their eyes met in the dim interior of the car, Elena felt that spark again. Stronger this time. More undeniable. She quickly looked away and reached for the door handle. Good night, Damien. Good night, Elena. As she rode the elevator up to her apartment, Elena touched her arm where Marcus had grabbed her, then where Damien's hand had rested on her back all evening. 2 very different touches. 2 very different men. One who had destroyed her. One who might be helping her rebuild. Elena wasn't sure which scared her more.